Good day, everyone. As you notice, I have my head off for this particular video. As if you've watched this channel from earlier, you know that that's not particularly good news. So, to this topic that I'm going to cover, I really wish I could cover any other topic. Once again, I wish I really this week I might have covered the debates, if anything. If nothing else happened this week. Or the last week, over the past few weeks, I would have covered probably the debate, and I might still cover that debate in another video, but unfortunately, just before that debate happened on September 24th, an incident happened which in this fandom will be known for a long time because of its completely out of nowhere nature. So as a preamble, what I'll say is that this fandom is very much a creative fandom. There's a lot of fandoms out there. There's a lot of different things. A lot of people, coalesce communities around very different things. And they do that because they want to find connection with others. And that's just our nature as a human species. Religion could be considered a fandom in some people's perspectives. You come together because you find this particular issue fascinating, and you find this particular topic fascinating of what happens after on the other side. And but that aside, there's other fandoms out there. There's Trek fandoms, there's anime fandoms, there's stuff like that, and all of them, every one of them comes with their own really source material. They really have a foundation of this is what the canon is. Basically they have what is called a canon. And the furry fandom really doesn't have that. All we have is just basically we like anthropomorphic animals, and there really isn't canon. There is mainstream works that we reference like Watership Down or other such things. But at the end of the day, we don't have any, we all have different interests. We all have there's so many different forms in which this kind of content is expressed that you could have a million different ways. You can have people who are Sonic fans. You can have people who are, bronies. You can have people who are Lion King fans. You can have there's a lot of there's a lot of particular source material that people will draw on. There might be source material, but the main thing that keeps this fandom going is fan created content. Anime fandom might have some of that as well. That fan created content and the drive to try to create one's own content is very much something I think that is a staple of this community. And so that being said, we are a creative community. We create things. We like to create. We love to create new ideas, new personas, new expressions. And so very much one could say that destruction and taking away of something is very much the antithesis of what the fandom is about. So when people would criticize the fandom for various reasons, even if they do the worst of the worst, I could say, well, I could always look them in the eye and go, well, here's the thing. We haven't had any, in 30 years of our fandom, I haven't found any reported or any, pointing things that say that a furry had committed a violent crime, such as a murder, this extreme as a homicide, to anyone. And that, to me, was amazing, because every community, it's since the story of Cain and Abel, right? We've had this tragic part of our biology that can sometimes drive individuals to harm one another, and it's part of the struggle that we live with on a day-to-day basis in every community. And unfortunately, on September 24th, I can no longer say that we have had our first recorded incident. We have had our Cain and Abel story, and it's very much rocked the fandom to a degree, as it would, because there's no reason that there's no sane reason that something like this should happen to good people, but it happens. One of them's even had the name of Goodwill. I mean, for crying out loud. But so in order to cover this topic, I'll probably be referring to articles, and I'll link some articles in the description below. If you have Furry on your Google News sort of thing as a section, it's flooded with this particular article, these particular articles at this point in time, because this is a big incident. This is a huge and jaw-dropping and horrifying incident where this happened. So the story is that in Southern California there was a couple an older couple who was in the furry fandom, like mid-30s. They're in their mid-30s, the Yotes, and they had 3 kids. And that's a beautiful thing in and of itself that you don't hear about too often, is that furry families, like families that have, furries at their head. You hear all the stories all the time about furries who are children, and the younger furries who have parents who are not furries and then have trouble expressing their differences in hobbies to their parents because they don't find the same things interesting that they do. And that's the more common story. And to hear about the story of another, a family where that's not the case, where, you had a family who's into the whole fandom thing, as a thing is awesome. And the tragedy here is that the only reason I know about them is because they're no longer with us. And that's disgusting. It's sad and it's horrible. So these 2 parents had a young daughter of 17-ish age, and they're involved in the community, and of course there are going to be individuals who are going to be interested in they had some friends, and this is where the whole thing comes. This is an intra-fandom homicide. This was the perpetrators were furries, and the people who were victims were furries. And while random acts of senseless violence capture headlines like no other, every once in a while, more often than not, and this is the thing that people have to understand, is that most homicides and most of these incidences that occur happen within a cluster of people who knew each other. It's not a random act of senseless violence from some stranger, from some immigrant, from some individual. The most of the times when incidences like this occur, it's going to happen with people that people that people who are closer to you, people who are within your sphere. You just don't know that they're capable of such things until it's too late. Or maybe in this case, maybe they did know. And so, and the fact that the news reports that the 2 parents here who were the victims of this crime basically, told, I guess there's things here that indicate that they told their daughter, or they told the individuals interested in their daughter, the 2 gentlemen who were arrested for this murder, the murder of them, basically, said, don't go near our daughter anymore. We don't want. They were uncomfortable. Now, one of the articles said they were uncomfortable because of the age difference, and that might have been an excuse. In now that what's happened. My speculation, and it's just speculation, is that parents have a sixth sense a little bit. Sometimes it's off, sometimes it's on, and you as a teenager don't understand that they have experience in the world, and that that maybe their advice is good advice, and in this case they were absolutely positively right. I'm thinking that their instinct told them that there was something off about these gentlemen, or about this gentleman, and that they had no interest in having their daughter get involved in anything like that, because they could sense that there was something wrong about him, and he did nothing, absolutely nothing, to prove them wrong. And it's with this particular thing. So basically, basically, I guess they were the love interest, the male love interest of their 17-year-old daughter murdered the parents in cold blood on September 24th. And there was also the third homicide because their friend was in the house at the time, I suppose. And so it's horrible, and it's the motive. The motive was probably because it's like we're told all the time in this fandom that, you know, straight women are hard to find, and straight guys are like, well, they can get a little too, they can jump a little too hard, I think, is what the issue is that because of the whole issue where it's like, oh, there's not a lot of straight women in the fandom, and they can get like, that way they might think, oh, this is my only chance, and it's like, well, it was your only chance because of what you frickin' did, you dumbass. It's like, there is plenty of fish in the sea, and our fandom is growing. Our fandom has been growing for a long time, and it's growing even more and more, and the fact is that we're becoming more diverse. We have more straight women. We have more straight men. There's, you know, we are stereotyped as being homosexual mostly, and that, I think that stereotype was probably in the back of this jerk's mind when he did what he did. And don't frickin' do things because of statistics. Don't think that they're the only person in the world. You know, this is the thing. Love can sometimes lead to destruction. Overwhelming drive in one direction can just sometimes lead to incidences like this. And know that it's not worth it, because now the only ones you're going to be able to interact with is behind a prison door. It's just senseless. It's stupid and it's senseless, and it's based upon perceptions and stuff like that. And I guess I'm speculating a bit too much. Maybe there's more to that story, but that's my hypothesis, I suppose. And I suppose, you know, people are going to talk about such like that, and I guess it's sort of unprofessional to make speculatory things like that. But if it is true, and if it is true that, you know, they told their daughter, and their daughter will know what their parents told them about the man that she was showing interest in. And if they said anything along the lines of, you know, don't get involved with them, they're bad news and stuff like that, know that they loved you, and they knew, and that they protected you, and that they basically did the thing that no parent should have to do, and they basically gave their life to protect you from that. Because if this man had this kind of violent tendency that would cause him to do such a thing to them, there's absolutely no indication that there's no thing for me to say that he would not have acted in violence against you eventually. That violence wouldn't have been, because that violent tendency was within him. It was within him and ingrained in him, and he couldn't fight it off for whatever selfish purposes he wanted. And if he couldn't fight it off for something like that, then if you got into a relationship and went out there and he started to not like what you did, who you were talking with, or getting really jealous and starting to, he might have taken that violence and that rage and that insecurity, and he might have taken it out on you in the future, you know? And so know that your parents loved you, and they did, and in this act, in this incident, they protected you. They took the violent tendencies that this man had and took it for you, because he would have eventually, in my mind, he would have eventually have done it to you. And so, but it shouldn't have happened. And to any furry out there who's a straight male, I gotta say to you, don't worry. Our fandom's growing. There's going to be plenty of fish in the sea, and you know, sometimes you can find interest. If you need to go outside the fandom to find the one that you need, then do it. I mean, it's a very personal thing. It's a very creative and personal thing, and it's a very tight-knit organization. And sometimes it's easier to feel connection with people who, you know, like and enjoy this kind of thing as well. But know that you could, you know, sometimes the best relationships are those that are found, you know, outside the fandom and outside and just like people who understand and you have different interests, and maybe you have a side interest outside the fandom that somebody else could tie to, and that can be the thing that ties you together. And furry and not furry would be the thing that's different. I mean, don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on the fact that you will find love, even if a door closes on you, even if a parent says no, because here's the thing. The best thing you could have done is done nothing else. Is, okay, I will respect your decision and I will keep my distance, and keep contact every once in a while, but don't make it seem like you're interested or pushing at their daughter. Just it's like, fine, I won't go out with your friend, but I want us to still be friends. That saying like, I would like to keep in contact with you. I'd like to still talk with you at furry meets, but I understand that you don't want me involved in your daughter because you don't feel comfortable. That's absolutely fine. She's still a teenager. We still have plenty of time. Don't think that closed doors are the final thing, are the final act in your life, the final thing in your life that it goes against what you think. Then you can't do it. You can you had more options if you backed off and just showed professionalism and proved them wrong, proved the parents wrong that you were the better man, that you were a better man and a better person, but you didn't do it that way. And now, not only do you suffer the consequences for it, but the one you love, the daughter, has to suffer through the fact that she has to live with this decision that she made to interact with you and not listen to her parents that you might have been more dangerous than they thought. And wow, did I ramble on with a very speculatory thing? But here's the thing about my understanding of conflicts and stuff like that, is that if you give me a little piece, I'll probably paint you a whole story, and I don't know whether the story is true or not. But if the individuals who were involved, do listen to it, I hope that, as I said, don't think of anything as a final thing. Think of this as a, let's move forward and do that. And that being said, there are two younger daughters for this family, and they are also caught up in this whole issue. They're very young daughters and young children, and unfortunately now they don't have parents to keep them, to help, sustain a living. So a page has been made for them, and I very much encourage, and I very much will post a link in the description below, probably multiple times, be very spammy about it, and say, here's the donation for, there's basically a donation to help those kids out, because they were caught up in this whole thing, which had nothing to do with them and shouldn't have had anything to do with them, and they live with the consequences of some other jerk's actions, and that's the world we live in. And that's very much the world that we try to escape from sometimes people call what we do in the fandom escapism. And but hey, when it comes down to it, when problems happen, we'll put aside our our just looking out for ourselves and having fun, and we will come together as a community, because we are a community at the end of the day. And so I would very much encourage you to donate what you can to the daughters here, and I will donate what I can. I will put in my own money, and very much wish them the best, and hopefully we as a community can be there for them in their tough times, but also respect them and their wish to keep things private and stuff like that if they do. So people grieve in their own ways, and we are respectful of that as well. But those two daughters, certainly we should come together and be charitable, as we always are, as we've proved we can be in our many conventions, and present that to this incident as well. So thank you very much for watching today, and I hope that I'll never have to cover a topic like this again. I hope that when I'm 65 years old, I can go, hey guys, we did it. We didn't have a single murder. We broke our record. We've had 30 years since our last murder, since our last homicide. And I really hope, and tongue in cheek aside, I really hope that is the case. I really hope that when I'm 65 years old, I'll go, this was the only time. This was the only time when our fandom had such a horrific incident of intra-fandom homicide. I really, because our fandom's growing, and I knew statistically in the back of my head, I was like, it's going to happen eventually. It's going to happen eventually. God, don't let it happen, but it's going to happen eventually, and it happened. And hopefully we can keep it from happening again. Hopefully we can look out for one another and, you know, and let people know that never, ever, ever let a closed door, never slam a closed door on your own face. Never do that. Always look forward. Always try to, if someone sees the worst in you, always try to prove them wrong. And I think our fandom's very good at doing that, is that people assume the worst, and we try to not fight their assumptions using physicality. We try to fight their assumptions using our actions. And through our actions, you know, show that we are not what, you know, the worst of us is not what we are. And I hope that, you know, everyone does that. And I hope everyone got something out of this, whether they were in the fandom or not. But I guess that's all I have to say about that. And thank you very much for watching. And I hope you have a great day. And hopefully things get better. And I do believe that they will. I think that as long as we know the stories, you know, as long as we don't shy away from the stories that make us uncomfortable and understand the underlying lessons to be learned and how to, you know, prevent these horrible, horrific incidences from happening in the future within ourselves and within our own communities, we can make our own destinies all that much better. And I think that we will. And thank you very much.